Hey, what's up? While we're waiting on our guitar body to dry, which we've already painted, next thing I'm going to be doing is relicing the hardware from the guitar. There's several different ways to do this. On this particular guitar is PCB etching. You can get this at Radio Shack, any electronics supply store. And one of the main reasons I'm going to be using that, some people use muriatic acid and it gives a real good effect, but it's really harsh. This part right here I did with muriatic acid for another guitar project. And as you can tell, it's a cool look, but it's really harsh. It actually eats the chrome off of the parts. And on these Peavey guitars, and I'm sure probably on some of the others too, but since we're dealing with the Peavey, some of the parts on here, like these bridge saddles, and this block, tremolo block on your bridge, these are made out of aluminum. The muriatic acid, say that again, will eat up aluminum parts. I found that out the hard way. So do not put aluminum parts in muriatic acid. The PCB etchant is not quite as harsh, but it is still a chemical, so you need to use some gloves when you're doing this stuff. Before I put the gloves on and get into putting the chemical on it, just like with the tuners here, I'll show you for example, you need to give the chemical something to stick to. So I'm going to be using one of these red Scotch-Brite pads, just like I used to sand the body of the guitar. And you're going to knock over them, dull them down. Get all your parts kind of dulled down. You'll notice some little scratches in there. And that gives the chemical something to bite to when we put it on there. I've got my parts scuffed down, my red Scotch-Brite pad, dull down, give the chemical something to bite to. Took the input jack off of the input jack plate here because you don't want any acid or anything getting on it. So what I've done, just put a little of this in a plastic cup. Just got an old brush in here. Now you can dilute this stuff with water depending on what kind of effect you want. But I'm just going to take the brush the chemical on the parts. This stuff is pretty messy, so I've got some rags down on my table. And you also want to make sure that you use this stuff in a well-ventilated area. You want to keep an eye on these parts, because whenever this acid starts to work, it usually takes effect pretty quickly, usually around 5 to 10 minutes. But just keep an eye on it, and you can tell when it starts to do what you want it to and what effect you're wanting to have. After your parts have set for a few minutes and you get the effect that you want, just take some water. I've got some water in a spray bottle here. Spray it on the part to neutralize the acid. Once you sprayed it with the water, take some silicone spray or some WD-40, whatever you have handy, and spray your part down. And there you go. We've got a tarnished, aged look, but yet the chrome is still on the part. And even though this is a what's called a mint green pick guard, kind of has an aged look to it, it's still a new pick guard, and it's really too shiny to go on a Relic guitar. So just to test out a little spot on the back of it, what I did, I went over it with a Scotch-Brite pad, but this is not a red one, this is a gray one. It's a lot finer, doesn't leave as much of a scratch as the red pads do. So what I'm gonna do is lightly knock over the front of this to dull it down, to make it look like it's been used, and to put some of these little dark spots on here, which would look like a stain or something. All I'm using, and this may sound kind of silly, but it's brown kiwi shoe polish. Just rub it on and just lightly, and then hit over it. You don't want it to jump right out and be obvious what you've done to it. You just want it to look a little bit stained. Also with the knobs, I started on one and I did the same thing. I dulled it down with the gray Scotch-Brite and went over it with some brown shoe polish. You don't want it to look sanded, you just want it to look dull, because over the years this thing would have dulled down. And as far as the stains go, just say for instance, where you would have turned your volume up and down over the years. You kind of get that. When it comes to doing the neck on one of these guitars, you kind of have to be careful, because if you screw this up and the guitar doesn't play good, then you've wasted your time. You know, the point of this is to get a certain look out of a guitar, but you still want it to be playable. As far as the body, it doesn't really matter how many dings and scratches and scrapes and whatever it has in it. You're still going to be able to play the guitar. I didn't buy a brand new guitar and come out here and decide to destroy it, which some people may think I'm doing that anyway, but it's my guitar. This is the way I want it to look. Okay, one of the first things you notice on a Relic guitar, or one that has aged naturally, after a while you start getting marks on the fingerboard from pressing against the strings. It starts to wear through the finish and you get marks on there. There's different methods of putting that on there. What I like to use, let me zoom in on this. What I like to use is a Dremel tool, one of these little small buffing wheels on it. And you can go as far as to mark out the different positions on the neck where your fingers go. On this guitar, it does have a little fret wear, so I can see where the strings would hit anyway. But what I do, turn your Dremel on, don't turn it up too high, just in this case it's on about 4. Once your Dremel starts to heat up the finish on the neck, let's turn it up just a little bit more. Once your Dremel starts to heat up the finish on the neck, it's going to leave what's almost a little burn mark. Now, see that? You can see it, you get the effect of the way it looks, but it's not dug down into the finish so far that it's going to affect the playability of the guitar.